Hello and welcome to episode 258 of Level Up Your Career, 60 minutes of live Q&A where your questions drive the show. I am Shanice Mitchell-Cox and I will be your host for today. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find out more about what we do on our channel. So go over to YouTube, please give this video a like and subscribe to find out more about us. Blanche is in the social chat, so please let her know your name and the city where you're joining from. She will post a link to vote up the questions that you would like answered the most, and of course, for you to add your own. If your question is selected, your name will appear in the credits at the end of the show. So stay tuned and see what happens when we've selected your question. Today, we discuss, is being Agile the same as being Scrum in 2024, part 1, the first part of our series on this topic, where we explore a very interesting conversation that you'll see all over LinkedIn. In this episode, we'll explore the difference between Agile and Scrum, examining their principles and the practices and how they evolve in the ever-changing landscape of project management. And to help us explore this further, we have a fantastic lineup of panelists. So let's jump in and meet them. I am delighted to welcome back Richard Campbell. He is the Director, Product Engagement Lead at the Agile Business Consortium. Richard is responsible for developing and delivering the Agile Business Consortium's portfolio of products that advance business agility. Richard has spent his career working in the advanced technology sector in a mix of commercial and product management roles. He's also a very familiar face on LevelUp. Welcome back, Richard. We're delighted to have you on today's show.
Thanks, Shanice. Yeah, this is going to be a good topic. So many people get confused about Scrum and Agile. Is it the same thing? And I think we're going to get some interesting discussions about those differences and how it can make a difference to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And my next panelist for today is Malini Jayaganesh. She is a strategic advisor and coach at ITSM Hub. She also works for the Business Relationship Management Institute and has a lifelong purpose to elevate others. Malini has championed diversity and inclusion throughout her professional life. We are delighted to have you back on Level Up, Malini.
Thank you very much, Shanice, and hello to my fellow panelists and everyone who's tuning into the show. We're looking forward to your very exciting questions.
Absolutely. So get your questions in early so we can give you live answers. And the third panelist for today is Sarah Olaifa. She is the project manager at HMRC and has led and delivered on many complex projects throughout her career. She is also a neurodiversity champion and has a fantastic podcast that I cannot recommend enough. So give that a listen. And if you are searching for that, it's called Neuro Enigma. Welcome back to Level Up, Sarah.
It's great to be back. Thank you so much, everyone. And lovely to have with the panelists again to be with.
I can't wait to hear your answers. And thanks for joining us again. I think this is your third show this time. So we're delighted to jump into this topic. Wonderful. Our fourth panelist for today is Belinda Waldock. She is a new panelist and this is her first appearance on Level Up. She is a business coach, trainer, speaker, and author. She supports organizations and teams to adopt an agile way of working to enhance their well-being, productivity, and growth. She is also the author of Being Agile in Business. Welcome to your first Level Up appearance, Belinda.
Hi.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us today and giving up your Friday afternoon to answer some questions. And completing our panel today is Aranda. She is a training Catalogue managing director at Netmind, and she has more than 30 years experience in product and project management, business development, and agile coaching across multinational companies worldwide. We're delighted that you can join us today for your first show.
Thanks so much. So this is my first show and I'm thrilled to be here. So it's going to be exciting to share this and discuss the questions with my fellow panelists. So it's going to be a great experience. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining us today. And Level Up would not be the same without our question master. And today we are joined by Charlotte Miller, who's in the Thames Valley. How is your Friday going, Charlotte?
My Friday is looking brilliant at the moment. I have a birthday celebration, not mine, and a Grand Prix weekend to look forward to. So looking forward to today's show.
Wonderful. I was going to say, if it's your birthday, you've kept that very quiet. So thanks for clarifying. Wonderful. And talking of questions, should we take the first one? I think we should. Let's do it. Charlotte, can we have the first question?
Definitely. Our first question is from Penelope in Bristol. Penelope asks, in a few words, could the panel explain the difference between Agile and Scrum?
Oh, this is a great question to kick off today's show. So I can see Richard's put his hand up. So we'll go to Richard first.
Yes, certainly. So the Agile Manifesto was developed originally a long time ago, 20 years or so ago. And one of the two members of the original signatories of the Agile Manifesto, which established some broad principles, they created Scrum, or the definition of Scrum as it is pretty much today. And it was a method for delivering software, but it uses the principles of Agile. So you can clearly distinguish between Agile as a principle or a mindset and Scrum as a way of delivering specifically software, but it can be applied to other areas.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Richard. We'll go to Belinda next, please.
I think that's a really nice description. And I often, when I'm training and coaching, is talk about how Agile is a mindset and a way of working. And I think it's sort of become a bit of an umbrella term as well for lots of different styles and flavors of Agile, Scrum being one of those, which really sort of encompasses, like Richard was saying, the values and the beliefs of Agile, but also then providing this sort of suite of tools and methods and concepts that we can then use to apply. So by doing Scrum, I think we can be more agile. It sort of really encourages us to be more agile.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Belinda. Malini?
I completely agree with what Richard and Belinda have just said. What a metaphor that I use when I'm coaching coaching my clients is Agile is, it's like going on a journey with the view to not having a very rigid itinerary. So you want to be a bit more exploratory, work with local recommendations or your experiences as you go along and make your journey sort of come alive, step by step. Scrum is sort of like a guidebook about this place that you're visiting, say maybe about the country that you're visiting, and it might have some information in there that helps you put together an itinerary which doesn't become a rigid handcuff sort of approach. Right? So it'll have enough information in there for you to plan out what you want to do week by week, and have regular checkpoints and so on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Malini. That was a great answer. And Sarah, if you would like to jump in now.
Yeah, so I love everyone's answers, but I think how I would kind of see Agile is kind of how you view the projects you're delivering, and the way you look at it. It's just you're flexible in terms of how you're delivering these projects. Well, a Scrum is a specific methodology, and it has defined practices and roles, and there's a framework you have to follow through. And Scrum that falls into that kind of framework. But if I was to take the difference between Agile is you're looking at an approach of how to deliver it from a, I guess, flexible approach or agile approach, and the framework you use is Scrum. So that's how I would describe the difference between Agile and Scrum. And it's not the same thing. You're using that specific framework to work within an Agile environment, because that's the environment you're working in, depending on the type of business you're running or the environment you're working in.
Absolutely. That was a great overview. Thank you, Sarah. And Anna, if you'd like to finish us off on this question.
Yeah, I think nothing else to add. The only thing that's summary is that the Scrum, to me, translate Agile principles into actionable steps in order to facilitate the delivery of value and the product development. So that's it.
Wonderful. They were great answers. And Penelope, I hope those answers have helped you out. So Charlotte, can we take the next question, please?
You certainly can, Shanice. We've got a question from Jenny Fahar. What are the limitations in simply using Scrum?
Oh, this is a good question. So limitations when using Scrum, there's got to be some of them. So I'm going to go to Richard, first of all, who's going to help me out.
Yes, I'll kick this one off. I'm sure I won't always lead in, but we'll go and then let the others build on those sort of answers. So Scrum can be implemented very, very rigorously, but still not affect the capability or the productivity of your organization. So they don't always go hand in hand. And there's much more to becoming more effective in delivery, whatever delivery means to your organization, than simply stepping through a process such as you define using Scrum. So the sort of limitations I would draw attention to is the culture of the organization suited to enable Scrum to deliver to its maximum capability. That's one of the things. And in an organization, very often, not everyone's using Scrum in its pure sense. You have other people who are doing slightly different things. And can the organization as a whole coexist with different ways of working, but still be agile? So there are a number of things in that sort of space, which I would say you might say are straightforward limitations of Scrum.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Richard. That was a great answer. Malini?
I think Scrum by itself, it's defined as a lightweight framework that is open, to adaptation, right? Which in itself is very reflective of agile values and principles. And I think the challenge that organizations run into is mainly because they don't use Scrum in the most appropriate way. So, for example, not choose candidate projects, when with the Scrum approach. And I think you have to be very mindful about where you actually focus your Scrum efforts. Scrum is not suitable for all situations. And I think the other thing also is people can go overly rigid with Scrum, to Richard's earlier point. And then it becomes inflexible, right? So I think you have to sort of really understand, why are we using Scrum? Get that culture and that mindset, part of agility sorted before you actually start looking at how you're going to adapt the framework itself.
Fantastic. That was a great answer. Thank you, Malini, for sharing that. And we'll go to Anna now, if that's okay.
Yeah, in my case, fully agree. So Scrum is like rigid structure. So some teams may struggle to adapt the framework to their unique context. So that's one of the other things. What I have seen in my experience also, it is that has to do with time-consuming ceremonies, which is not applicable to all the teams and to all the environments. And the other thing is that does our product or team fits Scrum? So Scrum, it is not fitting all, because this is only applicable when you can pre-plan for a short period of time. If you're a maintenance team trying to use agility, maybe Scrum, it is not the best choice, and you may go for Kanban. And I think that's it. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Belinda, if you'd like to jump in now and finish us off on this question.
I've two things pinged into my mind as we asked that question. One, I think, where I've worked with teams that are implementing Scrum or another method or model, so a particular brand, if you like, of Agile, and where actually they're not really embracing the mindset of Agile. So it almost becomes a bit of a micromanagement time recording tool. So they're actually kind of doing Agile, but they're not really embracing the manifesto and those kind of collaborative and those aspects of Agile. So I think there is, a limitation, I guess, or an opportunity that actually, it can be misused or it can be misunderstood. The other thing that then struck me as I was chatting as well is that in terms of Scrum, it's quite a sort of fixed methodology. So one of the things that we might talk about is how we would fix a sprint and the work that we're going to do in a sprint, and then we won't change that work through that 2 or 3 week sprint that we're working on. Now, I work with a lot of teams where they're not just working on one product in one business, they might be working on multiple products in multiple businesses. And the idea of not changing anything for 2 or 3 weeks isn't really viable. Something will happen in those 2 or 3 weeks where they have to be able to respond to that, and they have to be able to change what they're doing. Now, in an ideal world, we try and keep that, as fixed as we can. But I often work with teams where we're, building in Slack to account for that unplanned work. So making sure there's Slack in the sprint to be able to do that. So that's one way. But also, as Malini mentioned, Kanban, I'll often look at how we can sort of combine them so we can actually, receive that work in responses in particular different types of team where they are and they're having to be responsive, and things might happen that we can't control. So really bringing in that change. But in an ideal world, yes, we'll keep that sprint fixed. But we don't often work in an ideal world, do we? Yeah. So it's being able to respond. So I think that can be one of those limitations if you're really applying kind of a methodology very strictly. And not having that sort of adaptation to really accommodate the type and style of the work that the teams do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Belinda and panelists. They were great answers. So Jenny, I hope you've been able to take lots of value away from that. Charlotte, can we take the next question, please?
You certainly can. We've got a question. Oh, my teeth in. Question from Jeffrey in Amsterdam. Isn't Agile the same as Scrum, just with a few extra planning documents?
Oh, this is a great question, Jeffrey. Thank you for submitting. We're going to go to Malini and then Anna.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. What an interesting question. It reminds me of the very first time I worked in an Agile environment. The project had been going on for about 3 years and things were not going very well. And I was brought in as the process improvement expert. And I said, could I have a look at the requirements document or the specifications so I can understand, what the solution is meant to do? And I was told, oh, we don't have any documents. This is an Agile project. And I think that's something that we hear quite a lot. People misunderstand. That Agile doesn't actually have any documents. So coming back to Jeffrey's question, we've been saying, as the panelists have been saying, Agile is about a mindset and philosophy, and Scrum is a way to bring that mindset and philosophy into our day-to-day practice, right? So it's not Agile and Scrum are not exactly the same thing, although they're very closely aligned. And Scrum is more than just the mindset and a few planning documents. There's a lot more to it. There are specific roles, there are specific rituals, artifacts, all of those things that actually help us to demonstrate Agile behaviors in our day-to-day work and deliver value.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Malini. That was a fantastic answer. Anna, if you'd like to jump in now and share some thoughts.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was going to say, is that, Agile is a mindset, and it is represented in the Agile Manifesto, and as Richard was saying, so we have 4 values and 12 principles. And then this mindset includes being Agile and doing Agile. Being Agile, it is just focusing behaviors. We are fostering culture. We are fostering collaboration, flexibility, continuous improvement. And then we've got what it is called doing Agile. And Scrum is just another framework that can be used in order to do Agile. So as I was saying before, is just Scrum is something that will help you easily to translate Agile principles into steps. But this is not enough. This is not enough. I mean, if you do not have the culture, if you do not have the mindset, then you may be imitating doing Agile through Scrum. and you may be imitating doing a retrospective for improvement, but you are not really, if you don't have the mindset. Retrospectives, planning, and the iteration concept will not work. First of all, we have to implement, and we have to work with the culture, and then you may be using Scrum or any other framework for doing Agile. That's my point of view.
Fantastic. That was a great answer. Thank you so much, Anna. Richard, if you'd like to jump in now.
It seems that this question from Jeffrey was almost teed up to answer why we created at the Consortium the framework for business agility. I think there'll be a link in the post for that. So what we did with the framework for business agility is to help people understand, when you're trying to move towards agility, what are all the different lenses or perspectives you need to take? And it's so much more than, I think, exactly as Anna and Belinda were saying, it's about not so much more than just doing Agile. You've got to get out and think, well, what are all the things around these Agile type activities that might be embedded in doing Scrum type activities? And they include, so I already mentioned culture, but the leadership style. What sort of leadership? Clarification of vision, empowering people to make the right decision, or make decisions and experiment and be creative. And different types of leadership support that, and others are rather suppressive of it. But however, we're all responsible ultimately for delivering things. So how do you hold people to account? What is the governance that is agile to support progress in an appropriate way? So the framework does other things beyond that, but it allows you to look at all the different perspectives you should be seriously considering when you move towards Agile. And then you will see very clearly, Scrum doesn't actually address many of those things. And that is why it's so much more, Agile is so much more than just Scrum with a few documents. There you go.
Fantastic. That was a great answer. Thanks, Richard. And Sarah, if you'd like to finish us off on this question.
Yeah, this is a very similar question to the one before. And I feel like I can understand why you may feel that Agile is the same as Scrum. They are very much related, but they're not the same thing. When I think of Agile, and to try and like define define both understandings of Agile and Scrum, Agile is more about the interactions you have with people. It's about working with like products and software. It's about collaboration. It's about responding to change. That is an Agile mindset. Scrum is the actual framework. And when you're working in a Scrum environment, and there are different types of frameworks you can work within Agile, but if we're specifically talking about Scrum, it's about who represents the stakeholders. Are there particular roles, such as a potential Scrum Master, or like a development team within that framework? And then there are different things that happen within Scrum, such as sprints, sprint planning, daily Scrum, stand-ups, things like that. It's very specific, and sometimes it can overlap in terms of you're thinking Agile is the same as Scrum, but you can use a different framework other than Scrum to work in an Agile environment. So that's why it's so important to understand that Agile is a mindset, and how you view your environment or business you're working in, and the framework underneath it is Scrum. But it could be another thing. That's another framework that works within Agile. So I feel like, just for people not to get the two confused and not to see it as extra planning events, because it's a different way of working. And even in my own experience, we can have environments where you are using different types of project management methodologies. Some are a mixture of waterfall and Agile processes. And that's why it's so key to understand it's a mindset and it's a philosophy in terms of the way you're working, rather than confusing the two of the framework you're working in. So I thought I'd tie on with what Richard and others have said in regards to the difference between Scrum and Agile.
That was a fantastic answer, panel. And Jeffrey, I hope that you've taken some great answers from the panel there. Before we move on, if you would like to ask a question, like Jeremy has today, Jeffrey, sorry, I don't know where Jeremy's come from. Jeffrey, please submit your answers, questions via Slido. We would like to get some live questions in, so get them in early so we can get you some live answers. Charlotte, can we take our next question, please?
Thanks, Shanice. Our next question is from Joe. And Joe asks, in the panel opinions, what does being agile mean?
Ooh, this is a good question. And I'm sure we're going to get a lot of hand raises for this one. So Anna, and then Malini and Richard.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a recap with what we were discussing before. So being agile means embracing change. So we are changing not to be on the same place, just making sure that now our life is going to be changed. We are on an uncertain world, so we have to welcome changes in what we are doing, and we should be ready for that. Being agile also means having open communication, teamwork, respect among all the different stakeholders in our projects. Customer first. So we should be using customer centricity. So prioritizing customer satisfaction. And the best way to get this done is just by delivering things that they can use, by delivering value as early as possible. Being agile also has to do with iterating. So developing small chunks of work just in order to get feedback as soon as possible from our customers. That also has to do with being reflective. So reflecting on what I call the 3 Ps. What is what we're building, the product? What are the processes we are following? And then what about the team, about the people that it is involved in what we're doing? Empowering teams, that's an important thing. That's something which is crucial into different organizations. And this is not easy to be done. And also being transparent. Visibility about what is the process, what are the challenges that we are having, the results. So it is just being agile has to do with cultivating a new way of doing things, a new way of making decisions, and a new way of a new kind of relationship among the different people involved in a project. That's it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Anna. Malini?
I feel I can just simply say ditto to whatever Anna has said, and that would be enough. Just to build on what she has so beautifully expressed. To me, being agile is looking at what is really valuable to our customers, and our key stakeholders, and organizing ourselves in a way that we can actually deliver value early and in a consistent way. So we optimize how we work, we optimize the use of all the resources available, at our disposal, so that we can deliver value early and at a cadence that is sustainable for us. Now, in order for us to do that, we have to get better at, working with each other. And I love how Anna mentioned respect, right? Understanding each other, cultivating good principles of collaboration with our stakeholders. Figuring out what type of processes and documents and meetings and so on are required that are truly fit for purpose. So not sticking to things simply because this is the way we have always done things around here. And having a mind that is open to learning. So receiving constructive feedback, processing it, and then saying, this is something that we can take on board that's going to help us become more effective and efficient. And keeping that sort of open mind to continuously improving ourselves. And those are some of the characteristics of teams and organizations that are truly agile.
That was a lovely answer. Thank you so much, Malini. Richard?
Yes, so building on what Anna and Malini said, because this is a tricky one to know where to go from it next, but I would say that agile, or going down the agile route, gets the best delivery or best response when you're trying to address what's referred to as the VUCA world. So volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Now, whilst you can apply Scrum and agility to non-VUCA problems, I think its biggest take-up and most success and has been most welcomed has happened where organizations have realized that their non-agile approaches simply weren't getting results. So agile and being agile is actually most effective when considered as an appropriate response when you've got lots of volatility. So in other words, things are changing really, really quickly, which again, the change bit was brought up by Anna and Malini prior to this. But then you've got the uncertainty. Okay, we look at a piece of data and how do we interpret that? Have we got the correct interpretation? We can't be certain about something, so we have to make a guess. We might need to do some experimentation to decide how to move forward. So this is all about the agile mindset in responding to those sorts of spaces. Complexity. Well, you can't come up with a solution in one mind, in one person's head. We need to use the team. We need to use the intelligence of lots of people and combine them in order to address, because of that massive complexity. And then ambiguity, well, that's uncertain. We can't be sure that this is the right thing to do. And again, you need to be agile in how you address the ambiguity in many of the projects. And when you've got those characteristics, you've got to actually be agile. That's exactly the point. So that's why it's important to really understand genuinely what it takes to be agile.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Richard. And Belinda, if you'd like to finish this question off.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, fully agree with what everybody's saying, and especially picking up on some of those elements that Richard just said as well. My mind went in a similar direction, and it went back to, well, why do we want to be agile? And what's that underlying? So what's driving us towards that agility? So if we think about what we sort of used to use, those sort of traditional kind of predictive approaches, like Richard was saying, when we're working in a VUCA world where things are ambiguous and there are unknown unknowns, we don't know what we don't know, then we can't big up front plan things. We can't do all our planning up front. We can't then do it and then just evaluate it at the end. That's not possible because we don't know everything when we start. So for me, being agile is, and often I'll get people to, what does being agile mean? Or flexible and dynamic and responsive and these words that come through. And, it's that acceptance that we don't know. And this is a learning journey and that things are going to evolve. And we need to build relationships and rapport with our stakeholders and our customers and the different people to really understand the problem. And what the agile methods and tools really give us is a way of doing that so that we can build iteratively and we can build things. And, coming right back to the Agile Manifesto as well. When we're, I often refer, when we're down and we know what we're doing and we know how things, how we're going to do them, things are quite simple and predictable. And we can take that kind of traditional approach, but once we kind of move away from knowing what and how we're going to do things do become more complicated and complex and even chaotic. And so it's providing us, when we think about the manifesto, and I'm always reminding people, remember we're in this state of not knowing what we're doing, how we're going to do things. So we need to value those individuals and interactions over the processes and tools, because the processes and tools might not be right for this because it's new and it's different. And we need to value, the working solutions and the collaboration and responding to change over following the plan, because we accept that the plan is the best guess at what we thought we were going to happen. But as we take that agile approach, we learn more, and then we can pivot and we can adapt our plan and produce an even better result than we would have done if we just followed the plan in the first place. So I think, it's really sort of digging down into why we want to be agile and in what context that we're working in, which is what everybody else has sort of talked about. So sort of, yes. So
Perfect. Thank you so much. They were great answers. And we are going to move on to our next question. Charlotte, if we could take the next question, please.
You certainly can, Shanice. We've got a question from, and it's disappeared. I don't know where it's gone. It's disappeared.
The alternatives to using Scrum.
Yes. So
there we go.
It's been voted, so people have been voted, so it's voting for the question, so it's gone out of order. So George Hammer asks, what are the alternatives to using Scrum?
Oh, this is a good question. Thanks, George, for submitting your question. We'll go to Sarah and then Anna first.
So there's so many alternatives to using Scrum, but the ones I've experienced working in other organizations, and those are within the civil service, is Kanban and Lean. Kanban, I like it quite a lot within an Agile framework, because you get to kind of visualize your workflow. You can kind of see what column represents what you're doing within the workflow, and also you tend to be set to work in a particular limitation of each amount of work that can be progressed within each stages that you're working. So that's a really good alternative to Scrum. And then the other one that I've worked in is Lean, which is a really good one because it just eliminates waste. So you just literally delivering a project or with its minimal viable product. So it's just an MVP. You're just basically delivering what you need, and you're not wasting time on stuff, and you're just building in things that you need rather than expecting stuff later on. So it's quite a fun way to kind of deliver projects. But there are other methodologies other than Scrum, but those are the two methodologies that I've worked in the past. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sarah. And Anna?
I think there are so many, as she was saying, there are so many. So the choice of methodology, that depends very much on factors like team size, project complexity, organizational culture is also a factor to which framework should I be using. And then what are the specific goals for this, what we are trying to build. On top of the ones that Sarah was sharing with us, I may also say, like, for instance, lean startup, so iterative design and customer feedback. We may also say SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework, in the case that we're building such a huge product that we need to coordinate several Scrum teams in order to get this done. We may also name, like, for instance, stream programming, which is a method that emphasizes technical excellence, and this is mainly applied to software projects. So I will just put those three on top of the ones that Sarah was giving us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anna. And Belinda?
Oh, so I'm gonna my response is quite it's still percolating in my brain, but I think, like the others are saying, there's lots of different styles and flavors of Agile that you can look at within your organization. And I think I'm probably, because I work with tech, but also with a lot of non-technical teams, a lot of my work is actually sort of, I guess the team would have initially introduced a methodology like Scrum or Kanban or SAFe or Extreme or whichever flavor of Agile. And different methodologies suit different types of teams and businesses, like we were saying. So, if you can sort of plan your work and pin it down for 2 or 3 weeks, then Scrum's a great method. If you can't plan your work at all and it's all unplanned and coming at you ad hoc, then Kanban is a really good responsive way of using it. And often what I'm doing with teams is sort of, I guess you could think about adopting those methods as, the initial stages of your Agile journey. And then as you evolve as a team and an organization, it's really, I'm often helping people to find their own style and flavor of Agile. So often it might be looking at, and I appreciate this might be a bit of a controversial answer, but actually finding that mix of Agile methods and tools that work best for your team for that project in that scenario. And I feel very strongly about that, because if you keep trying to use, a tool that doesn't quite fit, actually that can cause, real limitations and issues and challenges. So I think, there is that sort of element of having those methods and the different methodologies that you can use, but then really looking to be agile. There's a cheesy saying that I use, which is take an agile approach to being agile. So it is about this journey and this developing our own models and methods that work best for our organizations, and whether that's in technical teams, but also very much in non-technical teams, where we're very much adapting agile to fit in different sectors and different areas. So yes, I don't know how the rest of the panel feel about that answer, but that's my kind of opinion on it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Belinda. And Richard, we'll come to you next.
Well, the history of Scrum sort of tells where it's well suited to sit. I mean, both the Agile Manifesto and Scrum itself, the original developers very much had in mind you are developing software. Now, in an organization where software is the primary route, I think simply the number of people who know Scrum and apply Scrum and projects which are delivering successfully around technology, particularly software in Scrum, means it's almost treated as the de facto way of doing Agile. However, a parallel route that went into this that's similarly dated to Scrum was the dynamic systems development method that actually came out of British Airways and British Telecom, IBM, and a bunch of other large organizations who were trying to solve business problems, pure business problems, not just software. I mean, all of them were writing software as a component of that, but the challenges they were working on was much wider than software. And so the DSDM approach for delivery was developed, and it came out of that way of thinking. And it's had massive global adoption. It's taken up by people all over the world and is embedded in the current version of the Agile project management approach, for instance. And it is its own development method that many people are using. But increasingly, it's a recognition that some of the bigger projects have teams, each of whom are using their own method, picking up very much the idea that Belinda mentioned. It's like some people have their own, grow your own Agile approach for this that suits the problem area that you are working on, and others are going to be pure Scrum, and others are going to be using Lean, and others are going to be using extreme programming. But you've got to have a way of linking all of these separate activities together, especially if they're lying under a common project or program. So you need a big picture Agile approach to grouping all of these delivery methods together. So a roundabout way of saying what's the alternative to Scrum? Well, there are many, and you have to make it fit the problem that you're trying to solve.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Richard. And Malini, if you'd like to jump in now.
Actually, with what Richard has just said, I feel like I don't have anything more to say, because the question of whether you use Scrum or which other alternative really depends on what's the problem you are trying to solve, because then you can try and find a path to getting there that is actually fit for purpose. In a lot of organizations where I work, I don't even use the terms Scrum or Agile or Agility, right? It might simply be people might be feeling overwhelmed. So we look at how do we organize the work? How can we make it more transparent so that we can see what is on everyone's plate? And who can actually help us address some of the things that are holding us back from achieving certain outcomes. So you might find, to Belinda's point, that there are many different, very pragmatic approaches to agility that actually don't have a name as such, but it's about understanding what's the purpose and utilizing a variety of methods that complement each other very well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And George, I hope you enjoyed those answers as much as I did. Charlotte, I think we've got time for 2 more questions. So yeah, can we take the next one, please?
Thanks, Shanice. We've got a question from Sophia in Oxford. Sophia asks, what would the panel say is most misunderstood about Agile and Scrum?
Ooh, this is a great question. Thanks, Sophia. We'll go to Anna first.
Yeah, well, there are so many things that I don't think we missed the hours discussing about that. For instance, yes, and this is the title of this, just mixing up Agile with a methodology. Agile is not a methodology, Agile is a mindset. Scrum being the same as Agile, this is another misconception. thinking that Agile means no planning or no documenting. This is also a quite and in fact that is a misinterpretation, because if at the end, if you are using Scrum, the planning, it is going to be, even you will spend more time in planning than in waterfall approach. The thing is that we are doing the planning in a different period of time. Also, that Scrum, it is just for software development. No, it can be applicable to whatever, even though it was starting as something for solving problems for software development. Thinking that the Scrum Master, it is a project manager that should be assigning work to the teammates. That's another. I think I've got tons, but I would like to give the chance to my colleagues, because, as I said, there's a lot of things that the misconceptions. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we could have a whole episode about this. So we'll try and be quick and squeeze in as many as possible. Richard, we'll come to you next.
Yes, it's okay. Brilliant from Anna. That's very helpful. The most common problem I see is an organization, say, that started off with the idea that the board of directors know what is right for the market, and they define exactly what the product or the solution is going to be, and they throw it over the wall and think that the Scrum team is going to be super efficient at converting that into solutions that are fit for the market. And it's that cultural mismatch between this command authoritarian from the board, we know everything and we get it right, you just do what we tell you to, but somehow thinking that Scrum is going to then result in a more effective delivery of that sort of command environment. It's completely wrong and missing the point. So I'd say that's the biggest mistake most people do. And one of the reasons why they stop using Scrum, because it's no more effective than their older ways of working, because they're not allowing it to do what it's really good at doing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Richard. Sarah?
I might sort of piggyback on what Richard's saying. I remember when I came into the world of project management and heard the term Agile, and one of the misconceptions I had was I thought it was about getting things done faster, and that's actually not the reality of what Agile means. It means that you're going to be, making things occur incrementally and responding to change as it happens. And that's what Agile means. But sometimes the misconception is when you hear Agile, you think, wow, fast, speedy, effective, but that's not always the case. That's one of the biggest misconceptions, I would say, about Agile and Scrum as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sarah. Malini?
In my experience, I think the biggest misunderstandings arise from people not reading the fine print in the Agile manifesto, right? So they think that the Agile values are saying, oh, we should not have a plan, we should not have processes and tools, or we should not have documentation. Whereas if you look at the Agile manifesto, what it actually says is we value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. It doesn't say we will not have processes and tools. And the other thing that I find people don't understand about agility is that agility does not have an end date. Right? This is about a way of being and a way of sustaining that way of being. Right? Whereas I often hear leaders say, "Oh, we want to have a plan for transitioning to agile ways of working, and they have a target date. By that date, we want to be agile." Well, you'll start your journey towards agility, and then you continue to build that bridge as you walk on it. There really isn't an end date, because you have to continuously keep improving yourself.
I love that. Thank you so much, Malini. Agility does not have an end date. Thank you for sharing that with us. And we'll go to Belinda for finishing off this question.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like a never done. It's a continuous journey and experience. And I think, Anna, you just reeled off so many great things that are misunderstood when people come to kind of applying Agile. And I think, bringing what you've all said together, it is about that kind of cultural mindset from, often from senior leadership in terms of, is this a way of working that we want to embrace that's going to improve not just the value of what we deliver, but improve the well-being of our people and their skills and their talent, and really harnessing their talent and their potential? Or is it being seen as this kind of qualification and tool and tick box? And coming back to that manifesto reference, are we being agile? Are we thinking of agile as that left-hand side of the left-hand side? Are we thinking of it as a way to improve interaction and communication and collaboration to make sure we're getting better working solutions and that collaboration and responding to change? Or are we seeing it as a process and tool and a way of documenting our projects and a contract with our clients and a plan? So I think it's really interesting how we can really, see how the manifesto applies so much more broadly, and how we can think about that as the mindset that we're taking into it. Because again, coming back to that sense of, we're up there in complexity. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know how we're necessarily going to do things. So are we, embracing that as an organization and seeing our way of, using Agile to actually be able to respond and thrive in that environment? Or are we using it as a way to manage and control it? So yes, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, panel. So we are going to try and squeeze one more question in really quickly. So quick answers, panel. Charlotte, can we take the next question?
Thanks, Shanice. Our last question is a question that's just been submitted by Ian Green. Have any of the panel taken over a project and have introduced Agile and Scrum, and did this produce the desired response?
Oh, this is a great question. Thanks for submitting, Ian. We will go to Richard, Belinda, and then Anna.
So my situation was that I came into a project where they thought they were doing Agile type things, but there was no real structure to it at all. So, and trying to apply a truly Agile approach to the team was truly challenging. It wasn't instant results, but we made progress over time. I think, so I think it was a success over the longer term, but it didn't return immediate instant results. I would say that.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Richard. Belinda?
Yeah, I've worked with so many businesses, and hundreds, if not thousands now. It's been those many years to adopt and apply Agile within their organization, their projects, their teams, and absolutely has the desired response. And I think if I say what I think that desired response is it coming back to that culture again? So, getting people, you get people in, room or remotely, and it really starts to open up those communication channels. It's a really great visual tool that really helps people to get things out of their head and share things, open up those conversations. And I often talk about how, initially when we're adopting Agile, it's literally putting the writing on the wall for us. So by doing Agile, it's putting that writing on the wall, helping us to understand where are those issues, where are those challenges, and actually be able to respond to those. So rather than, often teams will say to me, oh gosh, Belinda, we've been saying this for ages. How come you sticking a few post-it notes up on the wall? Suddenly they're listening. And I'll say, well, because we're showing them, not telling them. So we're actually able to show what's going on within the organization and be able to respond to that, which is where that essence of doing Agile helps us to be more agile. So helps us to see how we can improve, how we can adapt, how we can evolve, and have those conversations both internally and with clients, so that we can have that open, transparent communication as the project goes and spot things early and respond to those changes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Anna?
I guess I will go back to 2010. First time I was just we were in a waterfall project, and everybody was so frustrated because the requirements, they were changing all the time. And we were devoting a lot of time by describing to the little tiny details of every requirement that was changed after 2 weeks. So just by introducing the concept of user stories, that was a major improvement in the moral of the people and in the way we were discussing and we were having discussing with our customers. So this just was a small thing that make difference in the project. Just introducing the concept of user stories. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Anna. And Malini?
Ian, I have a lot of experience with multiple, situations where I've introduced agility and Scrum. But one that sort of comes to mind at the moment is where I worked in an organization where there was a culture of micromanagement, and teams were constantly busy but didn't really have much to show for it. So the way I went about introducing them to agility and Scrum as a practice helped them to empower all the staff to become leaders, to step into their leadership potential and take ownership for the outcomes they produce, and also by making the work transparent and visible to everyone, and chunking up the large pieces of work into smaller bits that you could then sort of see right through to the end, meant that we were at a regular at regular intervals we were actually producing outputs for stakeholders to see. And that completely changed, the attitude of the staff. They started feeling more motivated and inspired, and they stopped waiting for permission from their managers to actually do great work. They started, really demonstrating their accountability, which was really fantastic.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Malini. And thank you, panel. They were some fantastic questions and answers that we got from you. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to work my way around the panel and get some closing remarks. So Richard, I'll start with you.
Well, that was a fascinating chat. But for those of you who are interested in knowing more, there's the Agile Alliance annual conference called Agile 24. There's going to be the European experience of that is going to be in Manchester in the UK starting the 24th of July. I would thoroughly recommend those of you who can get to Manchester to go along there and mix and network and see lots of interesting talks on what's the latest ideas around Agile and how Scrum can be used more effectively as well. So all of these topics will come up. So strongly recommend you get there and do that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thanks for appearing on LevelUp today. If you scan the QR code, you'll be taken where you can register. Malini, your closing remarks, please.
Thank you very much for having me on the show today. I feel like we have barely scratched the surface, and I'm sure our viewers have more questions. Please feel free to connect with all of us panelists on LinkedIn, and we can continue the conversation.
Fantastic, thank you. And if you do want to connect with any of the panelists, head over to the APMG website and you'll find all of their LinkedIn links on today's event page. So thank you, Malini. Sarah, your closing remarks, please.
This has been a fantastic panel today. The questions have really been challenging, but really good to know that people have quite a good interest in Agile methodologies. I'm really happy to be around all the panelists today and all the guests that came on the show. So and I'm glad you guys hopefully enjoyed what we had to offer. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. It's great to hear all of your answers today, and we can't wait to have you back on LevelUp again soon for your 4th appearance. Belinda, can I have your closing remarks, please?
Oh, yeah. Well, firstly, brilliant panel, and great to share the sort of thoughts with you all. And thank you for having me. I guess closing remarks wise, I guess those of you who are listening, who are currently on this journey and perhaps starting out on your Agile journey, whether it be as something which you want to use to help you develop better software, or whether it's something completely different, I think that idea of actually thinking about it beyond that scope. So think about how you can apply Agile in your work, but also in your life and how you live and those different aspects. So, I had long COVID and I Agiled my way out of it. So there's lots of ways that you can use, the mindset, but also the methodologies and the tools, what's the minimum viable here, and really start to kind of apply things, because I think you can learn as much as you can learn, but once you actually start getting stuck in and applying things and seeing how that responds, again coming back to that take an Agile approach to being Agile, try it, small little incremental improvements, and try it somewhere small, somewhere safe to begin with, and then start to build on that and improve and develop it, and and enjoy your learning journey. And like Malini said, it's never done. So it's one of those where you're always learning new things, new ways of doing things, and somebody is always coming up with amazing new concepts or takes on things. So, do join us on LinkedIn and, keep networking and keep talking to people.
Absolutely. As long as you don't try to sell us anything, we'll always welcome a connection.
Yeah.
And Anna, if we could have your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, the thing is that I'm so happy that I was having the chance to participate in this chat. And the thing is that I'm happy if we manage to clear up at least a few of these common misunderstandings about Agile and Scrum. And I'm looking forward for having more insightful discussions in the future. So, and then a reminder also, in Spain, here we've got a conference of Agile Spain, which is in November. And Netmind, we are sponsorships of this conference, so we will be happy to see you there and to have further discussions there in the CAS 2024.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you. Charlotte, could I take your closing remarks as well, please?
I think I have to agree with Malini and say that we could have talked about this till the cows come home. Very English saying, but it's such a massive topic. And I think our panelists today have done an amazing job of providing some very insightful answers to all of the questions that have been asked. And I thank you, our panelists and the viewers, for submitting the questions.
Absolutely. LevelUp wouldn't be LevelUp without our panelists. So as we move on, you can search for all the answers that we've answered on LevelUp, 2,400 questions. It's a free resource connecting you with experts from around the world. And don't forget, you can listen to the audio versions of the show on your preferred podcast platform. We have some fantastic events coming up over the next couple of weeks. So on Monday, the 1st of July at 8 o'clock UK time, we'll be talking about building the perfect project team in 2024, part 1. And on Friday, the 5th of July at 2 o'clock UK time, we'll be talking about how to become a change manager in 2024. Part 2 of that episode. And on Monday, the 8th of July at 8 o'clock UK time, we will be talking about your must-have project management templates in 2024. You will need to register for this one, so please head over to the APMG LinkedIn page to secure your seat now. And don't forget, you can head over to our YouTube channel and give this video a like and subscribe so you never miss a show. Just ask and we will send you a personal summary of what's coming up and how you too can join us here on LevelUp and level up your career with us. Have a lovely weekend and we'll see you on Monday morning.